Defensive driving, there's a bend, parked cars on the right hand side. I have priority, I've checked to the rear, I'm just reducing speed. There's a car to the left, I'm looking ahead. Now I can see it's clear, there is an approaching vehicle but they're turning into a side road. But I was fully aware, now I'm easing off, I'm reducing speed a little, the blue car's coming into my lane slightly. So even though I had priority, again, just driving defensively, reducing the speed on approach to that situation. So I'm just being aware of other drivers' intentions, and I'm making allowance for other drivers, even if they perhaps aren't following the rules as in a perfect world they should be. So driving defensively, I can see parked vehicles in my lane. I need to go round those vehicles, so I've checked to the rear. I need to move into the other lane slightly on approach to a junction. I'm thinking, what if a car turns into this road? I'm also aware of a car in an unusual position here. I can only assume that they're wanting to turn left. I'm just going to hang back, and again, this is what a defensive driver would do. I'm looking at the driver and I'm just hanging back and letting that driver do whatever they intend to do. I don't want to be too close to them at this point. Now they've moved off, I'll check to the rear, have a good look around, and that was an example of defensive driving. There was an unusual situation, the driver was in an unusual position. I wasn't entirely sure what their intentions were, so as a defensive driver I just held back. I let them move off eventually, and then my path was clear to continue. But I didn't get annoyed at them or try to go round them or do something potentially dangerous. The best thing to do in a situation like that, what a defensive driver would do, is exactly what I did. Just hang back and wait until they go. So I'm looking well ahead. I can see a warning sign for a left-hand bend. It looks like there's a couple of vehicles parked on the right. I'm checking to the rear. I'm just going to reduce my speed. What if one of those cars moves off? What if a large vehicle, a bus, a lorry even, comes around this bend? So I'm going to be fairly cautious. I'm just below 20 miles per hour, and then I'm looking well ahead, checking to the rear, and then I'll increase the speed again. So this situation here, I'm just being defensive and I'm hanging back. I'm not going to go and wait directly behind the grey car in front, because that would narrow the road significantly, because the Jeep on the left and the white car are double parked. So by being in this position, I'm defensive, and I'm checking to the rear. I can see ahead it's clear to go, and that way I didn't unnecessarily restrict the width of the road. So another example of driving defensively. So I'm now driving along a busy high street, well, a potentially busy high street. Actually, it doesn't look too busy, to be fair, at the moment. I do not have a good view to the left of the zebra crossing. Checking to the rear, just easing off, decelerating, reducing a little speed, giving myself time to look, and now I can see it's clear. I will proceed. So that was a defensive approach to driving. I didn't have a great view to the left. Rather than just ploughing on through at the same speed, I reduced the speed slightly, considering there could be pedestrians in here. Because I don't have a great view ahead, I'm just reducing the speed to a more appropriate speed for the road and traffic conditions here. And then as the view ahead improves, I'll check to the rear, quick glance right and left, because we have a set of crossroads. I had priority on the major road, but nonetheless I still wanted to take good observation, as I am doing at this crossing here. So I'm looking and planning well ahead. I'm checking to the rear. I'm off the gas in plenty of time. I can see that there's queuing traffic ahead. So by easing off the gas in plenty of time, it was a nice relaxed approach. And then I'm just waiting for the bus. I'm not following through. I'm just going to wait for the bus. And another bus. Now that bus is letting me go, so I'll check to the rear and then I will make a move and then thank the bus driver. Now when you stop in a queue of traffic like this, it's defensive as a driver to allow a safe separation distance between the car you're driving and the car in front. We call that tyres and tarmac. So I can see the tyres of the car in front and a little tarmac between the front of my car and the rear of their car. So if they were to roll back slightly, because this is on a slight hill, then there's a little room so they don't roll into me. If they were to break down, I could, if it was safe, I could go around them. So again, this is an example of driving defensively. As I move off here, I want to be aware of the surroundings. Quick check to the right and to the left. So looking well ahead, the road looks quite cluttered. So checking to the rear, off the gas, decelerating. Car on the right, could pull out. So I'm doing just over 20 miles per hour at the moment, and that is an appropriate speed for this road. I've got time to look ahead. I can see a vehicle coming towards me, and because I was looking and planning well ahead, I had loads of time to move in. Looking well ahead again, there's another vehicle. So again, this is just a defensive approach to driving. On a road like this, it's a little bit of give and take, and rather than just trying to push through and force the other driver to stop for me, that's not my style of driving. A defensive driver would be prepared to hold back and wait, and then being aware to the rear and to the front. There is another vehicle approaching. I can see a gap on the left. I'm prepared to take that gap. I'm not going to try to force them to slow down for me. In fact, they're not slowing down at all. So that's fine. I'm happy to be a defensive driver. Safety is always my priority. It should be your priority too. So again, a white van coming. Everybody's grateful, everybody's waving. They're expressing their gratitude. Okay, and now I have room to go. Again, I want to drive at an appropriate speed for this road, so about 20 miles per hour. If I was doing 30 miles per hour, that wouldn't be appropriate. I'm aware of the pedestrian on the left. What if she opens the door? I'm just going to slow it down a little, move over slightly. That's it, all very defensive. Again here, being defensive. I'm not going to push myself through that gap. There's a van coming after. I can see the tyres of the van are slightly in my lane. For me to go around these vehicles, I'd have to go slightly over the white line. So the safest thing to do is just hang back. I'm being defensive. There's also pedestrian activity. The driver of the white van has moved in for me, so that's very nice of them. Thank you very much. A little bit of give and take. And around we go. So that was an entirely defensive approach to driving along that road. What if that bus turns into this road? What if that pedestrian crosses at the refuge? Is it safe for me to stop and let the pedestrian go? Yes, it is. They have priority, so I will just stop. I'm not going to wave the pedestrian. Just the body language of the car stopping is sufficient. That pedestrian could see my intention was to let them go. Again, entirely defensive in my style of driving. I'm aware to the left there is a crossing. There's a child crossing. I can see that the vehicle to the right is letting me out. I will thank them. Check for more pedestrians. It looks clear, and then I'll take the next road on the left. So I can see parked vehicles in my lane. Checking to the rear, positioning near the white line. Looks like the driver of the white car's parking. They have a left signal on. I have a very poor view of the road ahead. So I'm being defensive. I'm not going to take any chances. I'm just checking to the rear, looking ahead, and it looks clear. So I will make a move, but as I go along here, I'm on the other side of the road here, I'm looking for gaps. I'm not just pushing on through up to the brow of the hill, I'm being defensive. If a car appears, there's a gap here that I can move into, and that's precisely what's happened. And as a defensive driver, I could easily move in. Now what's happening here is there is a car behind that wasn't being defensive and wasn't prepared to move in. They stayed wide, and therefore they forced the driver of the yellow car to wait. So the driver of the yellow car couldn't go through because of the driver to the rear not following the rules. As a defensive driver, we want to drive with courtesy and consideration. I am aware that there's a side road on the left. It doesn't say keep clear on the road, but it's the courteous, considerate thing to do, to hang back and leave that side road clear so other road users can exit and enter the side road. So as a defensive driver, we will be courteous and considerate for the needs of other road users. I am aware on the left of a pedestrian and somebody on a scooter or a bike, so I'll just ease off the gas a little there to allow that situation to develop. I'm aware of a pedestrian on the right, so I'm checking to the rear, covering the brake, and just allowing that pedestrian time to cross the road, check to the rear again, and then speed up. So a lovely defensive approach to that situation. Same here, just easing off the gas, reducing the speed. I could anticipate that the driver of the black car and the red car was clearly intending to pull out in front of me, even though in reality they didn't really have enough space and time to do so. If I hadn't have slowed down for them, they wouldn't have time. Is the driver of the yellow car going to do the same thing? Okay, they've been sensible. Because I'm maintaining a safe following distance, I'm maintaining the 2-second rule. In busier traffic, other drivers do sometimes want to take advantage of that and pull out into that gap and effectively rob you of your safe following distance, the safe separation distance. Again, if that happens, a defensive driver, they won't get annoyed. I'm not getting upset by that. All I do is check to the rear, ease off the gas, or use the brake if necessary, and increase the distance again. Okay, I can see that this is a one-way system. I'm going to take the right-hand lane and I'm following the road ahead. It's a town centre environment, the delightful Mansfield, which is where I live. And again, I'm considering, of course, well, these lights could change, so I'm not trying to beat the lights, I'm just easing off the gas slightly. They've stayed on green, that's great. And as I go along here, I'm thinking of pedestrians. My foot's over the brake, I've checked to the rear, I can see the pedestrians to the left. They have waited, they was being sensible. Tight bend. So what's round this bend? Well, I can see a zebra crossing. What if a pedestrian appears from the right or the left? So I'm taking it to a creeping speed here. I'm looking, it looks safe. I'm just following the one-way system signs here. Again, lots of pedestrian activity, so I'm just being sensible. I'm aware of the zebra crossing, no activity. Looking ahead, looks nice and clear. Again, aware of the speed humps, so just going over those at a sensible speed. Another zebra crossing. What if a pedestrian appears from behind the building on the left? Just like this. So again, that was excellent anticipation, good forward planning, And that's precisely what a defensive driver should be doing at all times. Before I move off from here, what I'll do is have a glance to the right, a glance to the left, not only to check that no cars are crossing. They shouldn't be when my lights are on green, but you never know. It happens. And I'm also aware of pedestrians. It's a busy time of day for pedestrians, a lot of pedestrian activity. Looking ahead, I can see signs for two-way, so the road's now becoming a two-way road. Pedestrian activity, but the road ahead looks clear. I can't see around the bend. I can see a pedestrian crossing ahead. I'm just going to slow the speed down to a more appropriate speed, considering the activity ahead. Check into the rear, and I'm just going to wait. I'm being defensive. I'm not going to try to push through there. I'm just going to let them go, and now I can move off safely. So a nice defensive approach to that situation.